Hello, it's Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and today we're doing a reading. We're going to use a variety of different divination tools, including tarot, the Hebrunes, and some Nordic runes as well. And our topic today is, what are we letting go? What is it we need to release right now? Maybe how are we going to be able to release that, and what's the challenge around that? So we're going to start out with some tarot cards, and then you'll get to choose which card you want, lead you into the reading, and then we'll lay down some Nordic runes and Hebrunes on those cards. So let's get started straight away. I'm going to move these off to the side, and we're going to shuffle up the deck, and we've got, this is the Smith Waite deck. And it's a European version, if that matters, but we're going to shuffle it, and there's a card that really wants to come out. There's card number 1. We're going to do 3 different readings today, and as always, you're welcome to choose one reading or any number of them if you have more than one thing that you're trying to release. Maybe it might be good to assign one thing to each card. But I'll put the timestamps down below so you'll know where to find the individual readings if you want to jump ahead. So we've got 2. Let's get one more card. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and turn these cards over because I think it'll be more effective and for you to find your way in. Zoom in just a little bit. And let's see. Card number 1 is the Knight of Swords. Card number 2 is the Page of Swords. And card number 3 is the Ten of Wands. So if you don't know already, take a moment to determine which of these cards is calling to you today. I'll put the timestamps down below, and they'll take you directly to your individual reading. And I will see you there. Hello, card number 1, those of you who chose the Knight of Swords. We'll start out by just talking a little bit about this card. This is the card of, so swords are the suit of air, and they speak to words and thought. And this particular knight is rushing off very quickly to do his business, whatever it is. His horse looks a little bit terrified. Seems very brash, maybe rushing ahead. The air is blowing around. You can see the wind through the mane of the horse as well as on the feathers on the helmet. Birds are flying every direction. The clouds seem even scattered above. The trees are blowing behind. And again, this brash knight is just tearing off in the direction of his quest, sword drawn, ready to fight or have an argument at any rate, or present an idea, perhaps. So the thing that we're releasing in this particular situation is some maybe rashness of thought. Maybe there's something that needs to be communicated in a way that's really urgent, and or some ideas that need to be executed immediately. Maybe we're releasing that need for urgency. That's the sense I get, is that this knight is a little bit impulsive, and maybe we're trying to release some of that impulsivity. But we'll get more information when we get the runes and the Hebrunes down. Let's start out with the Nordic runes today. I've got these Nordic runes on Moonstone, and we'll lay down 3 on the left here. At the top we have the letter Algiz, and this actually came out reversed, and I'm going to honor that. Algiz reversed. we'll zoom in so you can see those, and I'll pick them each up when we talk about them as well. In the center, we have the letter Degas. And at the bottom, we have the letter Raido. And also, let's pull out the Hebrunes too while we're at it. Just get them all down, and then we'll read them. At the top, we have the letter Dalet. In the center, we have the letter He. And at the bottom, the letter Gimel. How very interesting is that? Okay. I'm going to zoom in again a little bit so that we can see more closely our spread here. Okay. Starting at the top, on the left side, we have the letter Algiz. Now, Algiz is representative of the elk or the moose. You can see it looks a little bit, when it's upright, it looks like antlers. Some say it's also the elk sedge, which is a plant that has sharp edges. And it's the rune that stands for protection. So when it's reversed like this on the upper position, and this is the position of what is our situation that we're in, it's talking about protection. But since it's reversed, it's like inner protection, feeling protective of yourself, having the wisdom to be self-protective in the situation. So the thing that we're releasing here with this brash Knight of Swords rushing off is we're trying to preserve our own safety in some way. Maybe we have been speaking too quickly or out of turn, or have been there's a couple different ways you can look at it. It can be that there's words that need to be said and that we need to release that fear that is being held by the Algiz here. Like, we've been self-protective, which is essential for survival. But maybe it is important to speak out, for some of you at any rate. Of course, this is a general reading for a lot of people, so maybe for some of you it is about releasing the need to speak out, and for some of you it is about releasing that protective self. Let's read on a little bit further and see if we get more clarity on this. So at the top of the reading, on the rune side, we have this Algiz, protection, self-preservation, reversed, which would speak to it being internal. So not relying on others for protection, but having to rely on your own wisdom and words for protection. On the Hebrew side, we have the letter Dalet. And the letter Dalet is the doorway. And it is, it's the letter that's about liminal spaces. It's about being ready to move into a different zone. So a doorway, of course, is a portal between one place and the next. So it can be the portal between life and death. It can be the portal between the life that happens before birth and birth. So it can be the birth canal through which we are entering into the world. It can be a transition from one state to another. So there may be not necessarily a literal death, but some major transition that's happening for you. And we are in this liminal space, which is to say, neither here nor there. That we are trying to protect ourselves with the Algiz reversed, but we're also not exactly where we want to be yet, or we're still standing in the doorway. And the doorway is the place, like in Judaism, where we have the mezuzah, which is this protective amulet that reminds us that the divine is there. And it's important to touch in with the divine as we go from one state to another. So this is where we're standing right now, is in this liminal space between inside and out, between life and death, between pregnancy and birth. And there seems to be this rushing forward that is present here. This is the thing, we're talking about what we're releasing here. So we're not trying to rush things, that we do need, this is the sense I'm getting, it's that the rushing is the thing that needs to be released. That we are in this liminal space, in the doorway, ready to pass through, and we're needing to have self-preservation. So the rushing is the thing we need to let go of. Yeah, that's the strong sense I'm getting here. The center position in these letters is what is the challenge or the fear in our situation. On the left side we have Degas. This is the Nordic letter that means the breaking of the day. There's some kind of full illumination that's happening. Some maybe enlightenment or revelation that's coming. And this is the challenge. There's something that's going to be revealed, something that's going to light up the whole situation and make it really clear what needs to happen, what needs to be released, and what needs to be preserved. And it's going to be the thing that's the most challenging when this revelation comes in the next phase of this. It will be a challenge, or maybe there's a fear that something will be revealed. Could be a fear that there's something that's needing to be revealed, or it could be that the challenge is the revelation itself. But something is going to be lit up, bright as day. It's like the dawning of a new thing. And there's a fear or challenge around whatever that revelation may be. Maybe the rushing forward has caused this to be revealed in whatever way. Over on the Hebrew side, we have the letter He. And He is the letter that I think of as being about remaining present. That the challenge or the fear here is, how do we remain present through this revelation that's coming in? We are waiting perhaps in that doorway, ready to step through. And it's important to show up and be available. He is the first letter of the word hineni, which means here I am. And it's the answer that one gives to the divine when they are called by name. So when you hear the divine call your name and push you towards something, it's important to show up and say, hineni, here I am, available and ready for service. It's challenging sometimes to show up. It's challenging to hear the voice even. But if one does hear the voice, it's really important to be available for service. And you know, there's a challenge around it because it's a big ask. Sometimes we don't know what we're showing up for until we say we're available. So there's sort of a call that comes, and we can say here we are, and then we get to find out what the mission is. So that's definitely a challenge when that revelation comes in about what it is we are asked to do. It is important to stay present and to show up for that. And then our outcome here on the Nordic Rune side is Raido. And I find this really fascinating because Raido is, of course, about riding. It's about getting on the horse and going. And in Nordic tradition, the horse is spirit. It's like you're jumping on your spirit horse and riding off. And it's a journey rune. It's about going on the path and finding your way forward. So on the one hand, we're releasing this need to rush forward. But when we get the call and when the revelation becomes clear, it is important to get on that horse and ride and move forward into the next thing that we're being called to do. On the Hebrew side, alternatively, we have the gimel, which is the camel. It's also about moving forward. So it's a camel or a foot, and it's about rushing forward in the same way that the Knight of Swords is rushing forward. The gimel is the letter that rules over the planet Jupiter in the sky. So in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, each of the letters has a celestial body that it rules over or is affiliated with. And Gimel is all about the planet Jupiter. And the planet Jupiter in Hebrew is tzedek, which means justice. So there's something that we're rushing forward toward once we've released what we need to release and seeking out justice. Gimel also, I think of it, it's interesting. I look at the letters a lot. And if you look at Gimel without its heel there, it looks like the letter Nun, which is the letter that corresponds to humility. So, and then at the bottom, when we look at that little heel, it looks like a Yud. So we have this humility, and the Yud, which is the first letter of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He, propelling us forward. So we're being propped up by divinity and spurred forward with like a little spur on the heel there. And so these are the same letter outcome here. So I'm going to go back to this idea that what we're releasing is the need to rush, but once we've gone through the doorway, once we've been patient and found our inner protection, even if we're concerned about what's being revealed, and we're having maybe a challenge of showing up, then we jump on our horse and ride. And so all this whole reading is about moving forward, getting some kind of message and going forward, but not rushing. So I get the sense that it's about releasing the need to rush, but really showing up and being present, really taking our time to tap into the divine as we pass through that doorway, and to find our self-preservation here with the algaes, not to be so afraid of the revelation, because once we have it, we'll know where to go. Once we're able to show up and say, here I am, available and ready for service, we'll be given that spur that will get us moving forward. But we need to start out in that position of humility, with the Gimel looking like a nun with a heel. Yeah, that seems to be the message for those of you who chose the Knight of Swords. I want to pull out one more card from the Sovereign Oracle deck and see if we have one more little message for you, for those of you who chose this particular card. And there it is sticking out. Let's see what we've got here. Trust. Okay. Ask your guides. Act faithfully on their messages. Call forth the best in others through your attitude, energy, and expectations. Know that you are supported. Trust. So yeah, the message here with this card is that we need to trust that the divine has got our back here, that we are riding the spirit horse that is being given to us by divinity, that we have this desire to move forward, but it's important to take the time to trust ourselves, to trust the divine, and to really listen in before we step through that doorway. And when we get the messages, even if they're concerning, trust what we're hearing from our guides and acting, calling forth the best in others through our attitude, energy, and expectations, and know that we're supported here. And that's the message about what we're releasing and how we're moving forward from there. So for those of you who chose the Knight of Swords, card number 1, this has been your reading for today. I will look forward to seeing you here next time. Hello, card number 2. Those of you who chose the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is an interesting character. He's, again, like I said, the swords are all about air. The suit of swords is about air, so air is about thought and words. The Page of Swords is holding a sword that is way too big for him. He's wielding this giant sword that he hasn't quite grown into yet, and you can see the clouds gathering around him. He's looking a little suspect, nervous, but you can see the wind blowing the hair and the birds up in the sky. And he's wary, he's suspicious of what's coming. So there's some sort of new thing. Pages are all about new adventures. But again, a little bit brash. The page seems like he's looking for trouble. Maybe wielding his sword, again, that's a little too large for him in a way that could cause trouble if he's not careful. So being mindful about that, and what words and or thoughts are we getting ready to release here. And either we are getting ready to release them because they're not serving us, or we're getting ready to release them out of our mouths and into the world. Yeah, so Page of Swords is our significator card. And we're going to pull out 3 Nordic runes and 3 Hebrunes. Let's start with the Nordic runes and see if we get some more clarity about what it is you're releasing, how you're releasing it, and maybe what's next. So starting at the top, we have the Nordic rune of Algi's reversed. Well, okay, well that was the same rune in the same position in the first reading, so that's fascinating. In the center on the Nordic rune side, I am shuffling these, we have the letter Hagalaz. No, sorry, Uruz. Sorry, I wasn't seeing it right. Uruz. Okay. And then at the bottom, we have the blank, which is weird. It's called weird, W-Y-R-D. So we'll tuck that at the bottom. Let's see what our Hebrunes have to say. At the top we have Zayin. In the center we have Gimel. And at the bottom we have Nun. Okay. Well, this position at the top is where we are right now. What is it, the thing we're needing to do to release whatever it is we're needing to release? Like I said, we got Algi's reversed in this exact same position in the first reading. This is a different card, although they are both swords. Algi's is about protection. It is the rune of the elk, or the moose. And it looks like an antler. You can see it kind of has that 3-prong antler thing going on. But it came out reversed. So when a rune is reversed, we like to think of it in terms of something happening inside, or it can be a negative thing, but since it's on the top position here, I'm going to take this as a positive reading toward inner protection. Or it can be either that we're feeling protective of ourselves inside, or that we're having to rely on ourselves for protection rather than relying outside. And the Page of Swords is a character who is looking like they're defending themselves, definitely defending themselves, looking this way and that, holding their giant sword up and trying to protect. So it seems really clear that this is a time of feeling a need for protection, that there's some threat. And it is important to stay vigilant, I think, but that's where we are right now, is this vigilance, this inner vigilance, knowing that we have to do something to protect our situation. And interestingly, on the Hebrew side, we have the letter Zayin, which is a sword or a scepter. So it's about sovereignty and using one's sovereignty to protect those who are underneath their reign. The Zayin is the letter that is the number 7 in Gematria, so it corresponds to the 7th day of creation, which is Shabbat. So there's something about rest involved in it as well. and it's affiliated with the Shekhinah, the indwelling presence, the Shabbat bride. The number 7 is considered a lucky number in many cultures. And so there's something about luck and sovereignty and indwelling presence and rest that is showing up here with the Zion. So we have this protective need on the Nordic Rune side and a sword here on the Hebrew side, as well as the sword on the Page of Swords card. So definitely defenses are up. And I'm not sure whether we're talking about lowering our defenses or letting go of, we're releasing something. And I think what we're releasing is maybe that need to be so protective, that fear. I think there's a fear here that is saying I have to protect myself all the time, that I need to have my sword drawn and I need to have it out so that anything comes at me, I'll be ready to chop it down. But right now, there isn't a lot of threat going on with the page, even though there is this hypervigilance that's happening. There are birds up in the sky, but I don't see any enemies coming near, and he's standing on high ground, so you would be able to see them if they were coming at you. So that is the situation, that maybe we need to let down our defenses a little bit right now and preserve our energy, go back into Shabbat, go into a rest state so that we can be ready when there is an actual threat. That's the sense I'm getting with this particular reading. In the center position, this is the position of what is our fear or our challenge. We have the letter Uruz on the Nordic Rune side, and the letter Uruz represents the wild ox. The wild ox is sometimes seen as stubbornness or being, again, really strong, strength, protection, but it's a wild strength. So the fear or the challenge here is that we maybe aren't strong enough, that maybe there's this stubbornness that's getting in the way of the actual safety that we're seeking, that there's a certain amount of strength that is bullheaded in its way. So this isn't cows, this is wild oxen. So wild oxen who are out there, the aurochs, who's out there being a wild animal, standing its ground. And that's the challenge here, is how do we preserve ourselves without being stubbornly digging our hooves in and refusing to budge. That's the challenge on the Nordic Rune side. And on the Hebrew side, we have the letter Gimel. And the letter Gimel is a camel or a foot stepping forward. So there is a challenge around stepping forward, or a fear that we should step forward right now. Maybe we want to step forward and it's important that we don't. So the challenge is, what do we do? How do we move forward? How do we move forward toward justice? As I said in the first reading where Gimel showed up, there is a correspondence between the letter Gimel and the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet. It also is the word tzedek in Hebrew. So tzedek means justice. And so Gimel is seen as someone who is running toward justice with their foot. They're jumping on their camel, or they're running toward justice. And the letter Gimel looks a little bit like the letter Nun with a heel on it. So Nun is about, we'll get to Nun because it's down here at the bottom, is about humility, but it has this little spur on it that's saying move forward, start from humility, but move forward. And the fear or the challenge here is we're trying to move forward maybe before we've found our humility. That there's a desire to rush, there's a desire to move, and the challenge is how do we discern whether it's time or not, because it seems like, again, there's this defensiveness that's coming up initially on the two letters at the top, that there's this stubbornness here, but also a desire to step forward. And how do we balance those two things right now in this challenging situation where we're feeling threatened, but there's no enemy in sight? Are we going to wear ourselves out by running around and being stubborn and refusing to stand down when we have the opportunity to stand down? That's the sense I'm getting from this. And our outcome, or our final letter on the Nordic Rune side, like I said, is the blank. It's the weird, which is infinite potential. It can seem like the unknown, which is, you know, is valid, that we don't really know what's going on. And that's why we need to release this desire to defend, because we don't have all the information we need. And the potential for anything to happen is here. Anything could and might happen. And that is our advice, or our outcome is be open. Be wide open to whatever is coming. You know, remain alert, but don't remain hyper vigilant, because otherwise we'll wear ourselves out before the time is. And similarly, on the Nordic Rune side, or the Hebrew side, we have the letter Nun, which is about humility. It looks like somebody who is kneeling with their head bowed. It's the first letter in the word Ne'aman, meaning somebody who's humble, or, yeah, bowed head. It's also the first letter of the word Nes, which means miracle. So on the same theme as this blank, this infinite potential, there could be a miracle in the situation that we don't quite see yet. But we need to remain humble. We need to remain, in some ways, in our contemplation rather than rushing forward, rather than being so defensive and swinging our sword around wildly. So it's important to release the need to be defensive at all times and take some time in silent contemplation to consider what could be coming next. And so for me, what I'm seeing in this reading is that the Page of Swords is trying to start off on this fight that they're not quite prepared for, that they want to use their words and they want to use their ideas to fight against an enemy that they can't even see, that there's this hypervigilance and this sword that's drawn to try to protect against something that's a perceived enemy. But again, Shabbat is represented in the Zayin, so there's some need for rest as well. That we have this Uruz, which is the wild ox that is digging in its heels and refusing to budge, and at the same time, the Gimel who wants to rush forward. And those are the challenges here. How do we balance that stubbornness and the desire to move forward with the understanding that we don't see an enemy yet? And our advice, or our outcome here, is be open to whatever's coming, trust in the infinite potential of the situation, and remain humble as we try to figure out what's happening, as we wait this out and see what's coming, because we can't tell yet. And I'm going to pull out one more card from the Sovereign Oracle to see if we can get some more clarity on exactly what it is we need. And there comes the card jumping right out right away, and it's Spirit. It says, connect to your highest good. Remember that you are an eternal being in a physical body. Call on your otherworldly support. Everything you truly need is at your disposal. Spirit. So while we're struggling with this situation about feeling really the need to defend, it's important to remember that we are part of the bigger spirit world, that we are part of divine, and that we need to remember who we are and how do we connect to that highest good, that we call on our otherworldly support, we call on the divine, and that knowing that everything we need is here in this unknown infinite potential, if we can remain humble, if we can remain in a position where we can take some rest right now before we rush off and before the enemy actually does show up. So for those of you who chose Page of Swords today, this has been your reading. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you here next time. Hello, card number 3. Those of you who chose the Ten of Wands. So the Ten of Wands is about the ending of a thing. It's a huge burden, apparently, that has been being carried. All these wands have been gathered up and carried for a very long way, and this person is exhausted, tired of carrying them. And tens represent the end of the thing. So coming to the end of this journey, we are releasing something, and we're apparently releasing these wands. Wands are the suit that represents fire. So it's about inspiration and passion and ideas that are coming alive, these ideas that are coming from an inner spark of some kind. So we have been carrying around these ideas, and maybe it's time to let them go and or set them on fire. Like set this whole bundle of wands on fire. You know, because it is a 10, it means that this, whatever it is that you're needing to release, is ready to be released. You don't need to do anything more. You need to set this down and give yourself a break. You've been carrying this for some time, gathering these sticks, the wands, which are like magic wands, and also a little bit like the trees that represent the divine feminine, the Asherot. So we've been carrying around all of this inspiration, and it's time to do something with it, and maybe it's just time to let it go. So let's pull out some letters as well to see what we get. We're going to pull out 3 Nordic runes and 3 Hebrunes today. I'm going to start by mixing these up in my little basket here. And we'll do one at the top. We have the letter Tiwaz, and it is reversed. It usually looks like that. Tiwaz reversed. See if it wants to stay. In the center, we have the letter Othala reversed. And at the bottom, we have Awaz reversed. Wow. Okay, 3 reversals. It's been a rough go, it looks like. Let's pull out some Hebrunes too. At the top we have the Yud. In the center we have the Kaf. And at the bottom we have the Hay reversed. Okay. I haven't done a lot of reversals in these readings, but I'm going to give it a go. All right, starting on the left side at the top, we have the letter Tiwaz. And like I said, it usually looks like an arrow pointing up. Tiwaz is Tyr's rune. Tyr is the warrior god. And he's also, I mean, he's a warrior, but he's not Mars or Aries. He's one who fights to protect. And he's also the one who is about duty and following through, even if it's really challenging. He's the one who sacrificed his hand to the wolf Fenrir. So he's done things that are valiant in order to push forward. But it's about like sort of that yang energy of driving forward. And since it's reversed on the top line, I'm going to read it as Tiwaz reversed being like having that inner drive, or having feeling like you have this duty. There's this duty to carry these wands, and it's really clear in the card here that this has been a huge burden. And Tiwaz reversed is like you've been carrying this burden, this duty that you feel like you gotta do it. You've got to carry these wands, that they're yours to carry, and that everybody's expecting you to carry them, but it's not really serving you anymore. That this duty is really burdening you. It's really weighing you down, and it's time to release it. That's really, really clear. On the Hebrew side, we have the letter Yud. And interestingly, Yud is the number 10 in Gematria. So the 10 here, with the 10 being the completion, something coming to an end. It's representative of a seed or a sperm, something like, because the wands are also sort of phallic symbols, it's like this fertility letter that's like planting a seed that has the potential for everything within it, or like this little sperm, it even looks a little bit like a sperm, that is being planted for something to come to fruition, but it's really brand new. It's just this tiny little nothing right now. It's the first. It's like that infinite potential that comes in the form of the Big Bang. That there's this one point out of which everything else grows. It's like It's like the first mark that you make on a page before you draw the rest of the letter. Every Hebrew letter has a yud in it somewhere, because it's where you set the pen down. So on the Hebrew side, what we're releasing is the seed. We're releasing a seed. We're setting down all these 10 wands, and we've got, again, like the number 10 is right in the letter yud. And the number 10 also kind of harkens back to the 10 commandments, which again are these burdens that we have to follow and carry. But within it also is the 10 Sephirot, which is the divine emanations of God who are coming down. So like these ideas of mercy and justice and foundation and manifestation in the world, of strength and beauty and balance and endurance. So there's so many things that come with that 10. And it's sometimes difficult to balance them. That's been a heavy burden to try to do all the things, to try to fulfill all the commandments, and also to remember that you are a divine being. So that's where we are right now. Too much sense of duty, too much burden, this sense of 10 coming to a completion here. The center letter is that of the fear or challenge in our situation. And on the Nordic Runes side, we have Othala reversed. Othala usually looks like this, and it is upside down. And Othala is about the home or the homeland. And it's about being at home, feeling at home, but being reversed in this position, it's like you're not comfortable. Things are very uncomfortable for you right now. And it's important to get outside of your comfort zone, but there's a challenge around that. Like, how do I, my comfort zone is doing the duty, is doing the thing, carrying the wands. I need to relax and let them down and basically go home. But I'm really uncomfortable with that idea of finding comfort for myself. I have been carrying these wands for a very long time. How will I ever lay them down? But what Othala Reversed is saying is we need to get outside of our comfort zone and find a way home. It's not going to be easy. This is a challenging thing, getting outside of our comfort zone, especially when our comfort zone is discomfort, if that makes any sense. It's like this codependent idea that we have to do for others and that we can't do for ourselves, that we have to carry everything that we have been told that we need to carry. But realistically, what this reading is saying is we need to release. We need to release this right now. We need to release this idea of duty and let go. And that is challenging. On the Hebrew side, we have the letter Kaf, and Kaf is the letter that is about the palm of a hand and the sole of a foot. So it's about oppression. It can be about oppression. So in this position, I would say that it is about oppression. It can also be about lifting things up. And here you are carrying all of these wands with your hands. It can be about the wings of the Shekhinah or the hand of the Shekhinah lifting us up as well. But in this position of the fear or the challenge, it's about oppression. Something has been oppressing you, and clearly it is these wands, and it's time to release them. The challenge is, how do you release them? How do you let them go? The Kaf is the number 20 in Gematria, and it corresponds in some ways to the Sukkah, which we just finished Sukkot last month. And it's about building this house with these sticks. And so we have built up something, and Kaf is about give and take. So are we giving more than we should? Are we not taking the help that we need? Have we taken down our sukkah? have we spent too much time and effort carrying these sticks that we don't need to carry anymore? How can we take what we need when we need it and not overextend ourselves? That's the challenge here. Again, how do we move outside of that comfort zone of duty? It's what's up right now, is that we've got to let that go. We've got to put that down. Too much is going to burn you out, and you're not going to have the ability to be available when you need to be available. Time for rest. On the last letter in the reading on the left side is Awaz, and it's reversed, and it usually looks like this, and it is the spirit or horse. And since it's reversed on this position, of the outcome or the advice here is we need to turn inward. We turn inward to find our spirit animal, to ride into a place of knowing what it is that we need to do that is really in alignment with spirit. How can we get on that horse? And it can be challenging if it's upside down like this. You know, you've got this idea of a horse that is being ridden, and the rider has it easy, but the horse has it hard. So what's important is to turn inward, find the spirit inside of you, and then let that carry you on to the next thing. Release that burden. Release those wands that you've been carrying, and maybe let the spirit carry you now. You don't need to carry these wands anymore. You need to get a horse and put the wands down and ride. You've been walking for too long. And that's just really clear to me in this reading. On the Hebrew side, we have the letter He, and it's reversed. The letter He is about showing up and being present and available for service. And it's upside down, so it's saying, stop doing that. Stop showing up and being present and available for service. You can do that for the divine, but really listen into that spirit, because divinity is not asking you to kill yourself by carrying all these wands. Stop saying yes when people ask you to do stuff. You need to take a break. You need to rest so that you're, feeling whole again. It's really time to let this go. He is the first letter of the word Hineni, which means here I am, ready for service. So being reversed in this position, it's saying don't volunteer anymore. Stop volunteering for these things. They're going to burn you out, and you're not going to have anything left. So this is a really, really clear reading from where I'm standing. You've got too much to carry. You've got those 10 wands. You've got the 10 here. You're following the commands. You're following what you perceive as your duty. And it's important to break outside of that comfort zone of being uncomfortable. That you've got oppression coming down on you. And you're carrying too much. You're giving too much without receiving what you need. You need to turn inward, put down the wands, let the spirit carry you forward, and stop volunteering for stuff so that you'll have more energy when you'll need it, which will be a time that's coming pretty soon, is my guess. So we're going to pull out one more card from the Sovereign Oracle and see, oof, that one jumped right out. See what we have. And it says restriction. Limitations may actually be creative opportunities. Choose helpful constraints to make the big idea real. And don't be fooled by others' limiting beliefs. Restriction. So there's been some restriction, but also you need to give people other boundaries. You need to give people restrictions for your availability, that they will be creative opportunities. If you're not available, whoops, there goes the camera. If you're not available for people who are constantly relying on you to do something, they're going to have to get creative and find other people to help, other ways of getting things done. And choosing these helpful boundaries, these helpful constraints, will make this idea real. Don't be fooled by others' limiting beliefs. If they think you're the only one who can do this, you need to just say, no, I need to lay this down right now, take a break, and I'll be back when I'm better resourced. And that's a really clear message. So for those of you who chose the Ten of Wands today about what it is we're releasing, let it go, set it down, find your inner spirit, and move forward. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed this and that it was useful for you. And I hope to see you here next time.